Hi, welcome to my channel, Rise with Dr. Priya. Today we're going to talk about love and mental health, two really important topics. Love, that experience that human beings go through. It's biological, it's psychological, it's emotional, it's social, it's cultural and philosophical. How does love work with mental health? Believe me, there are interactions. Our mental health affects our ability to love. There's an interplay. We're going to break down this complicated topic into 5 different categories. Number 1, we're going to talk about attachment. Number 2, we're going to talk about biological circuitry in the brain dealing with love. Number 3, we're going to talk about psychiatric medications and love. Number 4, we're going to talk about depression and love. And number 5, we're going to talk about anxiety and our ability to love. There are 4 different attachment styles: secure, avoidant, anxious, and disorganized. These attachment styles deeply affect our relationships. The theory of attachment styles came from the study of infants and their environments. So the infant has a certain set of genetic tendencies, and the environment has a capability to meet or not meet that infant's needs. We're kind of just looking for a good enough fit, but there are all kinds of permutations which affect our behavior. For example, a securely attached person tends to be a little more optimistic and confident that the environment will be able to meet their needs. A person who is anxious is often preoccupied. They tend to be people pleasers. Their environment did not always meet their needs, and they were constantly concerned about their caretaker or about the environment being okay. An avoidant person develops this style from a difficult childhood, one where they learn that they can't trust the environment. They can't trust their caretakers, so they develop a lone wolf type of persona. And the disorganized style of attachment develops an extremely fearful type of personality, someone whose behavior can't be relied on or counted upon in intimate relationships. Their environment was so wholly unpredictable and painful. When they are faced with intimacy, it just upwells a huge amount of chaos and turmoil and pain. So, that being said, these 4 styles deeply affect our relationships. If a person notices certain patterns in their dating history or in their history at work, it is probably important to do a little bit of a deep dive into your personal attachment style and see what you're bringing to the table, how your temperament, how your attachment style is affecting the environment. You'll be amazed at what you can learn about yourself. Another amazing thing about attachment is that it illustrates how social human beings are, how important social connection is for human being babies to grow and progress and develop relationships in their adult life. Love is an emotional experience. Love is a psychological experience. Love is a spiritual experience, and it is a biological experience as well. I'd like to talk about 4 biological pathways involved in love. There's a biological anthropologist by the name of Helen Fisher. She's written several books on love, mating, why we choose who we choose, why we stay. And one of her masterpieces is The Anatomy of Love. And I recommend it to anybody who's interested in the topic of love, its evolution, why we love, how we choose who we love. It's a fantastic book. So, extrapolating from Dr. Fisher's research, there are 4 different biological pathways essentially involved in love. The first one is a dopamine pathway. The second one is a serotonergic pathway for serotonin. The third one involves testosterone, and the fourth one involves oxytocin and estrogen. These different pathways affect different stages of love in different amounts, and we also tend to be more driven by a certain pathway in our lives. So the dopamine circuit is involved in thrill seeking, excitement, the anticipation of seeing a loved one, that feeling of not being able to eat, not being able to sleep when one falls in love. So it's extremely motivating. It is a molecule of more. And the dopamine pathway is very activated when somebody first falls in love and that first honeymoon period of the relationship. The second pathway involves serotonin. The serotonergic pathways are so important in building relationships and growing children. It is a pathway that appreciates where one is at, that's able to build harmony, that feels contentment. It is a very important pathway involved in child rearing and stability in your relationship. The third pathway, the testosterone pathway, is very direction oriented, very motivated, very looking for results. So the testosterone pathway is often found in people who are directors or managers or have very strong drives and urges. As you can imagine, testosterone is also involved in desire and intimacy. So it's a very important pathway to maintain in a long-term relationship. And also it's an important pathway to have or to experience when we are intimate with somebody. The fourth pathway involves oxytocin and estrogen. So it's in both male and females. You could be an estrogen, oxytocin dominant person, but it is the wonderful, warm, nurturing, cohesive pathway that helps us stay in love, that helps us bond with our partner post-fighting, that helps soothe us when we're hurt. Oxytocin, estrogen dominant people tend to be the nurturers and the communicators in the world. So it's just a little bit on these pathways, but a little bit to illustrate all the different components of falling in love, maintaining a relationship, and the types of things we need to continue a relationship beyond just raising young people. There are also different types of people who manifest these pathways stronger than others. And that's another area of self-exploration that I encourage. Are you, for example, more dopamine driven? Do you enjoy the thrills and the adventure? Or are you someone who's more stable and more of a builder type of person? It matters, and it matters in your relationship. And I think if we develop some insight into our capacity that way, it helps us communicate our needs, and it helps us understand ourselves better so we can have better relationships. Of course, just a little bit here, this is extremely heteronormative, and we probably need a ton more research on different styles of bonding. Antidepressants are widely prescribed in the United States. I'm going to focus on selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. These medications deeply affect our ability to love and our love responses. I'm not going to knock antidepressants. They save lives and they help with anxiety and they help people function better in the world. However, it's important to examine how increasing levels of serotonin in the brain for prolonged periods of time affect our behavior. For example, increased levels of serotonin in the brain suppresses dopamine. So while we're feeling content and stable, we will miss that zhuzh, that excitement, that burst that can happen with dopamine when we fall in love. So while your depression may be treated, being on an antidepressant for a prolonged period of time will affect your dopamine response in love. Additionally, antidepressants affect the ability to reach climax, to have an orgasm. They can and often do create anorgasmia. An orgasm is the completion of the human sexual response cycle. With that completion comes a release of incredible neurohormones that ease pain, ease anxiety, and make us feel bonded. The completion of this cycle in orgasm creates natural endorphins and oxytocin. So when one is deprived of that, it can create issues. And it might be worth exploring this if it's causing problems in your love life. Another thing that antidepressants can do, they can decrease your libido. So when a libido is decreased, a person is less likely to initiate or spontaneously want to engage in intimacy with their partner. While they're not depressed, that's a great thing. However, it can have long-term effects on the quality of the relationship. Now, if any of these things come up in your experience with antidepressants, I encourage you to talk with your provider. There are a lot of treatment options. And also, if this is affecting you, but SSRIs are saving your lives, more power to you. Like I said, it's complicated. And the more insight we have into the nature of these things, the better able we will be able to love and accept ourselves and be in relationships. Depression definitely affects love. It affects your ability to experience pleasure. Depression robs you of motivation. Depression affects your self-concept, creates a terrible negative self-image, and also can rob you of the desire to live life. So depression affects love and the capacity to receive love. It is a tragic, difficult emotional experience. And I want to say I'm very grateful that we have treatments for it. And I encourage you to get treatment if you're experiencing a depressive episode. Now, when we're depressed, it can definitely affect who we choose in a relationship. For example, one could choose a cheerleader partner. The cheerleader partner drags the depressed person out of bed, gets them motivated, gets them moving, gives them some sort of meaning. Now, this type of dynamic is often difficult because when the depressed person gets better, they often feel resentful or they feel infantilized by the cheerleader personality. So choosing a partner when you're depressed may not be the right time. You could also choose another depressive type of person, and together there is security in that bond you share together of self-loathing and of retreating from the world. But it can also be a very negative, isolating experience. So depression doesn't always cause us to choose the best partners in which to have a relationship. So one of the best ways to deal with depression and love is to learn what is depression and how does it impact me. Depression is a mental, emotional, medical condition where you are low in energy, where food doesn't taste right, where you're not motivated to do anything. Things that used to give you excitement do not anymore. You may feel suicidal. There will be disturbances in your sleep. Either you sleep too much or you get up in the middle of the night and can't fall asleep again. You often are preoccupied with negative thoughts. This is just a slice of how bad depression can be. So if a loved one or you notices this, I would encourage you to speak with a professional. There are a variety of ways to treat depression, and we can talk more about that in different videos. One could take an SSRI to treat the clinical depression. Exercise always helps. Therapy is an invaluable source in treating depression as well. So it's important to look at how your mood state affects your capacity to love and choose a partner. And I hope this motivates people to take care of themselves better. You don't have to become a master of self-love, but it goes a long way in choosing a partner. So lastly, we're going to talk about anxiety and love. Anxiety is very difficult on love relationships. Anxiety keeps you in your head. Anxiety keeps you running and externalizing and worrying and catastrophizing and often ruminating on negative experiences. Anxiety steals you from the present moment. Anxiety robs you of a depth of relationship. It keeps us really superficial. Let me elaborate. You could be with someone that you care about and that you love, but anxious. Are they happy with me? Are they getting enough to eat? Have they slept enough? How's their job? What about the money? That anxiety can just go haywire and rob you of the beauty of the moment, of the shared time you have with someone you care about. Anxiety sucks the life out of you and your relationship. How do you stop that? Well, one of the things to learn is how to bring yourself back to the present moment. What am I feeling with this person? If I take or just let my anxiety, anxious thoughts be, what am I feeling inside? Am I feeling pleasant? Am I enjoying their company? Am I enjoying their story? You bring it back to the moment. And that takes a lot of practice, but it is so worth it, and it enhances relationships, and it enhances the creativity in a good relationship. Another thing to do to deal with anxiety is to expose yourself to new thoughts, new ideas, new places. And that's not easy, and there's no shame in asking someone to help you. Often we need hand-holding to get us to new experiences, to push us beyond our comfort zones. And often the relatedness, the good feelings that happen from that outweigh the fear and the anxiety. And it's definitely a way to treat anxiety, through exposures. Another way I encourage people to deal with anxiety is to hang out with people who have a lot of life experience. People who've gone through hardships, survived them, and thrived. Don't have to tell you all about their bad experiences, but just being around them invites a feeling of confidence. If they're happy and they've survived difficult times and thrived, their energy, their attitudes help a person cope with existential anxiety, because as human beings, attitudes are contagious. And if you're with somebody who is a survivor and a thriver, genuinely, not superficially, it's contagious and it feels really good. You could also take an antidepressant for anxiety, and again with the caveat that you're working with someone that you can talk with and that you're understanding that it's going to affect other parts of your life. And they're very effective. But it is a catch-22, because mental health and love are complicated. And it always is worthwhile to talk to a professional about it and to also think about it on your own. Love and mental health are essential qualities to living a good life. So, thank you for watching. I hope you got some nuggets of wisdom out of it, and stay tuned for more. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.